And that's just one of the challenges to learn the secret art of human flight. Let's talk about it now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about The Secret Art of Human Flight, which premiered at the Tribeca International Film Festival. Is coming to theaters on July 5th, 2024. It is a whimsical, witty, and wonderful story about one person's grief and the extreme lengths they will go to kind of overcome it. My hot take is I definitely think you should watch it. It is just a wonderful film. It was a very nice surprise for me. It's quirky, it's unique, it's beautiful, it's funny, and it's heartfelt. It deals with grief and overcoming tragedy. I thought it was a really fresh, enjoyable film. So I definitely think you should check it out in theaters now. So I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into the ending. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the ending section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some big surprises along the way. I would turn it off when I get to the ending. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler-free, unless you know when you get to those spoilers. So in The Secret Art of Human Flight, you have Ben, who is at the funeral for his spouse. His spouse has just died. We don't really ever know why she died, but she has just passed away, and Ben is going through a lot of emotions, as you can imagine, mostly grief, mostly just kind of like feeling disconnected with the world and not really wanting to do anything. But that all changes when chance web search leads him to a project that seems crazy, but gives him something to do to kind of overcome his grief. Does he overcome, and does he actually learn the secret art of human flight? Well, you have to watch the movie to find out. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the music. I really love the music. It kind of fits with the style of this film. It feels, I keep saying whimsical. It feels kind of whimsical. It feels almost like circus music at times. It really is a nice touch to kind of like give you an idea of how like light this film is. Even though it deals with grief, it is like, it has light, happy moments and then some pretty emotional moments, but the light moments are kind of necessary to keep you going. The second thing I love the style. This film has a very unique look. It's shot in what looks like an older style. It's like a 4:3 aspect ratio, which I talked to the director, and they did that so that you would get the full view of people. Like they did the 4:3 so that you could see a full length of a person rather than in a widescreen format where you wouldn't be able to see their feet. He said specifically, if you're talking about flight, you want to be able to see their feet. And so that was why they did it in the 4:3. But it looks really interesting. It's got like rounded edges on it. And a lot of the text looks kind of like old timey, like a silent film type text. It looks really nice. It looks very unique. It instantly draws your attention, which is nice, and kind of draws you into this film. The third thing I loved, it's funny, it's strange, but has so many fun moments, and I loved it because it really helps to kind of like break up some of the emotional parts. Like this film deals with grief, this film deals with tragedy. It's kind of nice to balance it out with some funny moments, so it kind of helps you move along and make sure it's not a completely sad story. And related, the fourth thing I loved, it's emotional. It definitely deals with some deep emotions, and it deals with like, overcoming some very, very strong feelings, but it does it, like I said, in a whimsical way. So I did love that it doesn't shy away from some of these like really tough emotional questions and some of the like the darker aspects of grief, but it tells a story that is, fun to watch as well. And the last thing I loved about this movie, it's just different. Like I see a lot of movies. I like seeing a movie that just feels different, that feels fun, that feels kind of unique, and this movie has all of that. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, the ending, sort of. I feel like the ending went a little bit too long. I feel like there was a more natural spot to cut it, and that would have led to a better film. That doesn't mean the film is bad. I loved the film. I thought it was fantastic. I just think that there was a better, me personally would have liked to cut it at a certain point. And I'll talk about that in the ending section. I'm not going to talk about it now. But don't worry. That was a minor point. This film is fantastic. It's a great film. You should definitely check it out. The Secret Art of Human Flight comes to theaters on July 5th, 2024. So make sure to watch it. Make sure you kind of see if it's playing in your local theater. And if not, keep an eye out. Whenever you can see it, definitely see it. It is a really fun one. So I'm going to go into the story and ending right now. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So like I said, in The Secret Art of Human Flight, Ben's spouse just died. They were, I guess, both children's book authors. They were like a writing pair. They really complemented each other. And so they would write children's books. That's what they did. And now his spouse is dead, and Ben doesn't really know what to do. He's feeling grief. He's feeling sadness. He just feels bad in general. His sister leaves him for a bit. Like she's helping to take care of him in this moment. She leaves him for a few days, and he just like sits outside for all of those days, just like staring into nothing. So he is definitely going through some emotions. And he is trying to process things. He's trying to kill time. And one day he comes across this like YouTube video that shows someone jumping off a cliff and then zoom, like they fly back up, and they're like, that's weird. Like that looks like a really ridiculous like YouTube edit, right? Like it looks like bad CG. I would probably say it's bad CG if I was reviewing that movie. But Ben's intrigued. Looking through the comments, someone posts, that this was them, and they go to this website to find, to find out more information. Clearly a spam post, something you would never click on, but Ben has grief, and so he decides to go there, but he can't get there. You gotta install a Tor browser. And if you don't know what a Tor browser is, a Tor browser lets you scour the dark web. The dark web is it's like an underground web. It doesn't really have like anything centralized. There's no like Google, there's no like centralized DNS, I think. Like I haven't explored the dark web. My understanding is it's not centralized. So you can have very specific websites, usually for things that are illicit, and it's tougher to track, it's tougher to get into there. It's all encrypted because you're using a special browser and a special protocol. So it's generally for illicit activities. And I'm sure there's other things too, but mostly you hear about it for illicit activities. But Ben goes to this website, and it is this personal website of this person named Mealworm who is selling his specific secrets, the secret art of human flight. And he said it's not an easy undertaking. It's not something that you can take lightly. It takes personal, professional, and physical sacrifice, but the reward is flight. Who doesn't want to fly? I want to fly. I think that would be awesome. I don't know if I would do all the steps to get there because there are a lot of steps, but I think that would be awesome. Ben, in his moment of grief, decides, you know what? Let's see what happens. And so he buys this product. It is a $5,400 product. He buys it. And then later, a package comes. And in the package is this book. This book is that says, it's like handwritten. It's like a leather-bound journal. It's The Secret Art of Human Flight. And it has all this stuff for him to do. And so this movie is divided into chapters, kind of like the book. Chapter 1 is the foreign home. And that is when he has to do all of this strange stuff to like prepare his space for flight. And it's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of things he get to sacrifice. Like he has to get rid of all his chairs. Again, I don't know if I would do that. I like chairs, but he has to get rid of all of his chairs. He has to sleep outside under the stars. He has to like paint a room sky and like put clouds up in it. There's a lot of strange things he has to do to get ready. So as Ben is getting ready to do this and do all this strange stuff, eventually Mealworm, the person who did the video, shows up at his house, and he delivers him the missing page. There was a one page missing from the journal. Ben's like, why are you here? And he's like, to guide you. And I think Ben is having second thoughts, like there's a lot to do here. Mealworm is in his house, and so he's like, this is not really the right time for me. I'm not really sure if I can handle this. And Mealworm says, okay. He hands him back the cash, the money that he sent him, and says basically like, if you can't take this leap, like the leap to get ready, you won't be able to take the big one. And then Mealworm leaves. So Mealworm leaves, and later someone named Wendy comes by. It was a friend of Ben's wife. She comes by to give him some food, and they start talking, and we find out that Wendy also went through some grief. Her husband died, and so she understands what Ben is going through. She understands, the emotions, and she tells him that he needs to find a thing, something, anything that he can like grasp onto and see it through. And Ben's like, uh-oh, I had that. Maybe he doesn't say this, but he's thinking like, I had that. Maybe he will now take this journey. Chapter 2, preparing the body. This is where there's a lot of things that have to happen for Ben to be able to fly. Or no body hair from the neck down. He has to eat only vegetables for 1 week, then only meat for 1 week. He has to lose 18 pounds, exactly 18 pounds. No orgasms whatsoever. So a lot of things that Ben has to do to be able to fly. And Mealworm also comes and helps him. He helps him train to, trim up, to lose that weight, and also to prepare his body for this. But one of the other things we see during this time is like, at the start, you see some like home videos of Ben and his wife, and they start off like picture perfect, wonderful. But as the movie progresses, you see some of the cracks. You see that maybe like Ben's memories weren't exactly perfect. They argue a little bit. And in this chapter, we see some other videos where they're like arguing, like not physically, but you can see that there is a little bit of conflict in their marriage. It's not like a perfect relationship like Ben thought at the start of the film. So as he's going through his journey, we find out a little bit more about their relationship too. So chapter 3, preparing the mind. Now Ben has to study birds to learn how to fly. And so part of that is he has to only speak in bird sounds for 7 days. So he starts, having to speak in like pigeon sound, like that kind of stuff. So Ben prepares for the birds. Eventually a bird flies up to him, and now he is ready And Mealworm is also helping him like learn to jump and trying to motivate him. So he has him jump and he can jump like 8 feet, which is great. And then Mealworm lays down broken glass for like 14 feet. He's like, jump again. Ben doesn't want to do this, but Mealworm is like, you have to do it. Like the excitement, the fear is going to help drive you. Ben doesn't make this jump. He actually trips as he's about to go and cuts himself. But Ben does feel like he could have done it. He like felt something when he was getting ready to jump. Now, as Mealworm is patching him up, Ben asks him like how he figured out how to fly. And because of that video, the video we first saw when Mealworm was jumping off a cliff and flying. And this is where this is where Mealworm reveals a little bit more about himself. He says, I wasn't trying to fly. And Ben's like, you lost someone too, didn't you? And Mealworm's like, I stepped off that ledge 4 times, but something kept putting me back on top. After the 4th attempt, I chose life. So we see that Mealworm wasn't trying to fly. He was trying to end his life, but something kept pushing him back up. And so now Mealworm is trying to pass those teachings on to other people. So now that Ben is ready physically, he's ready more mentally. He's also found a spot where he can try to fly. He was running and found like a spot in nature that looked really nice. Chapter 4, Conquering Irrational Fear. So now he has to conquer his fears. And the first step is to embark on a spirit quest. Mealworm gives him mushrooms. They drink a mushroom tea, and Ben goes on a journey through all sorts of emotions. So while Ben is on this spirit quest, Ben's sister Wendy comes by with a phone and a note for him. I think she's worried because she hasn't heard from Ben very much. He's doing these weird, erratic things like sleeping on the roof, and he's meditating naked, and he's, like jumping and learning to fly, all that stuff. So she's worried. So she gives him she wants him to have a phone and some sort of note. Mealworm says he'll give it to him. Ben's on a spirit quest. So Wendy leaves it and heads out. Now, later, after the trip, after Ben has a few other emotions and things like that, Ben and Mealworm are talking, and Ben hears a phone ringing, and he's like, I don't like. He doesn't know where the phone is because he had to get rid of all of his technology. That was one of the other steps to prepare his body and his mind for this. He had to get rid of all of his technology, so he doesn't have a phone. But now a phone is ringing. He goes to find it. He finds it, and it's his sister. He goes outside and picks up, and she is talking to him, and she says that they have some more information about who this Mealworm person is. His real name is Mark Sisko. He spent 7 years in prison. He's a con artist. I think he did insurance fraud. So she is very worried that this is a plot, from Mealworm to like get Ben to do something, take advantage of Ben. And when Ben hears this, he gets very scared. He goes into Mealworm's Winnebago. It's his like RV that he's been driving around to Winnebago. And he looks inside, and inside there he finds a drawer full of Ben's memories and some things that were taken from his house. While this is happening, Ben is also feeling the effects of something. Mealworm and Ben had a drink before this call happened, and he is starting to feel drowsy. He's starting to feel upset. And remember when I said that this chapter was about facing your fears? Well, one of the fears that Ben faced was spiders. He was okay with that. He also apparently has a fear of he has like claustrophobia. He doesn't like to be in confined spaces. And how do we counteract that? Well, Mealworm, when he passes out, puts him in a coffin and closes it. And this is supposed to help Ben counteract that fear. Well, Ben wakes up and he's screaming. He's not happy. And eventually he wakes up in a mental institution. Apparently, his sister Wendy and Tom found him in that coffin, opened it up. He was probably raving. He was probably on some sort of drug trip. They think maybe he was trying to commit suicide or something. So they put him in a mental institution. Not good for Ben. Ben's now in a mental institution. Now that he's in a mental institution, Mealworm breaks in a little bit later and tries to talk to him, tries to say, you were only in that coffin for 90 minutes. I left for a second. When I came back, the cops were crawling all over the place. I never lied to you. Ben calls him a fake and a scumbag. So he's, was only there for life insurance. And Mealworm tries to convince him, but isn't able to. So he has to leave when Ben starts calling the orderlies to get him away. Chapter 5, The Secret Art of Human Flight. So Ben wakes up later and realizes that Mealworm was delivering something to him. He delivered him a portable DVD player and a DVD that his wife had given to him that said, "To my Ben," with a heart. And it's a message from his wife. I guess they made these videos to each other in case they died first. It's a little weird, but it's a little sweet. And she tells him basically to, go outside, get some sun, don't let the world harden him up, keep being a sweet, soft person. And so this really touches Ben. He's really sad. And he decides to go out to the yard for a walk. And so when he's out there, he's looking up at the sky It's beautiful. And he starts to feel something. He starts to do some of these exercises. He starts to do some breathing exercises. He, starts to like get ready to try to fly. And you can tell the people in the yard are watching, like, and they feel something because they all start to like look at him. I think there's like wind in their hair, things like that. Ben feels like he is ready to go. He starts running towards a gate. And that's when it like you hear people like say stop and like hear people gasp, and then the screen goes black. Ben wakes up on the other side of the gate. The gate was like, 40 feet tall. Ben wakes up on the other side of the gate on top of a car. Implication is he might have flown for the first time. He had run. He's now outside. He wakes up and he just starts running. Now he's outside. Now he can fly. He starts running. Where is he running to? Well, he's running to that nature spot that he found for his first flight test, his first jump. But the cops are pursuing him. He has just broken out of a mental institution. They think maybe he's dangerous. Who knows? As he's running, a Winnebago pulls up behind him in front of the cops, blocks the cops. The cops stop. They get out. They arrest Mealworm. Mealworm tells him to go. And so he keeps running. Now, Ben is in really good shape, right? He's been working out. He's been trimming up. He runs to that spot. He's standing on the ledge, getting ready to fly. And that's when he hears, don't do it. And he turns around and he sees his sister and his brother-in-law. He says, like, I'm going to do this. Don't come any closer. His sister says, like, Sarah would have wanted you to keep living. And he says, Sarah wanted me to believe in things, and I believe in this. His sister like convinces him to give him one last hug. He's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, of course you're gonna like try to stop me. And she's like, no, I just want one last hug for my brother. And it's a really beautiful scene. Like he's on this ledge. There's clouds. The sky looks gorgeous. It is a really, really powerful, touching scene. He goes, he hugs his sister. He says, I love you. And then he turns around and runs. And that's when we see a police car. And we hear an explode, like a boom, like an explosion. And Mealworm is looking up. And we see Ben fly. Like he's flying. He's flying through the air. We see him flying through the air. He's looking up at the sky. He looks down at like the town around him, and he just keeps flying. And so he's flying. He's flying through the air. He looks down. He sees like colors and energy. Like he sees like the energy of the world. Kind of a little like Donnie Darko-ish. Like not that dark, but he sees like lines of energy as people are moving. So you can like, I guess, manipulate their energy, and that's how he's flying. Something like that. Who cares? It looks beautiful. And then as he's flying, we also see like all the happiness Ben has had in his life, like all the happy moments he's had. He flies towards a mountain. He closes his eyes and the screen goes black. And then we hear, I should let go. That's probably a good idea. So the implication is I think Ben is flying. Now, I would have liked it. I think that the flight scene was interesting, but it also didn't look that great. It was all CG. Before that, this movie had been, didn't have a ton of CG. It was mostly practical. It was mostly like really nicely done. This looked, I don't know, it looked a little bit fake. I mean, it looked fake, obviously. Didn't look that great. And it felt a little too on the nose. Like I would have actually liked this movie a lot more if Ben would have run, jumped, you hear a gasp, maybe you hear like an explosion, and then you could like just see Ben maybe smiling, but you can't tell if he's falling or flying, and then that would have been the movie. Because then you wouldn't like know. Maybe he flew, maybe he didn't. You wouldn't be sure. I would have liked that ending rather than this one. Now, it's possible that his flight is actually him just like letting go, and it is in his head that he's flying. He's actually plummeting to his head. I don't think so though. This movie was a lot more about like hope and dreams than it would be than about like letting go. So I mean, it was about letting go of your grief, but it wasn't about letting go of your life. So I think that the implication is supposed to be that he's actually flying. But again, I would have thought that it would have been a nicer end to not really know. Like you could have shown Ben smiling to show that he was like happy with his decision, but you wouldn't know. Would he fly? Did he not fly? Who knows? But either way, I still think this movie was fantastic. I thought it was really fun. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was just a really kind of fresh film. So that is The Secret Art of Human Flight. It's coming to theaters on July 5th, 2024. Like I said, definitely think you should watch it. Definitely check it out. See it however you can, because it is very fun, very unique, and definitely deserves to be rewarded for like taking a risk on this story. So check it out. And if you watch it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. Let me know what I got right and wrong. I would love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.